Do you have a voice in your head that makes you doubt yourself? Does it tell you disempowering messages like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love? Then stay tuned, as today's fabulous guest is not only going to reveal the number one thing holding you back from receiving next level love, she's going to tell you how to get a breakthrough. Well, welcome back to Series 5 of the Rocking Midlife Podcast. I'm Kat Coluccio, your host. It's been a bit of a hot minute since I was last here, but I'm so thrilled to be kicking off a brand new season with a fabulous guest all the way from the East Coast of the United States, Junie Moon, an amazing lady who is a global love mentor. You're going to love this one, folks, and the CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud. So I'm so excited to dive into this topic today. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things to do with leveling up and receiving love. But before we let her get going with all her amazing knowledge, Junie, it's wonderful to have you. How about starting off by just sharing your story? How are we here? How did you get into teaching people how to receive love?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and welcome back. That's awesome that we're starting another season. That's exciting.
We sure are.
And just like everybody, I had a journey. I had a long ups and downs of relationships and some crashes and burns and heartaches and all that jazz. And then when I got into my mid-40s, I was 200 pounds, 5'3", in a 20-year, well, it wasn't 20 years at that point, but it was a long-term marriage, walking on eggshells, not really speaking my truth, very low self-esteem. And I micromanaged everything, and it was very painful, and I managed it with food. But I thought I had a food problem after many years of dieting and all that jazz. And I found a body of work called shadow work, and everything blasted wide open for me, where I suddenly realized that there was an inside thing going on between my ears, which is what we're going to talk about. And I started doing the deep dive healing work and transformed and healed. Still healing. It's a journey. However, I didn't have self-love. I didn't have self-respect. I didn't feel worthy. So it was painful. And so when I got my voice back and I was able to really claim this stage of life, I realized that something had changed inside of me. I loved my life. I found an amazing partner soon out the gate, next level love, where I could just be myself and have an amazing life. Sadly, we ended up shifting gears. That's a long story, but the long story short is I know how great it can be with a partner, and I love my life. And so now I help others claim this precious stage on their terms, feeling fully alive and loving themselves along the way.
Wow, that's fantastic. I just love how you've phrased all of that and how much of it was really an inside job too. And that's what we're going to dive into. But have you encountered a number of other women in the same type of journey through midlife? Because I know I've encountered a lot in my community, the Rocking Midlife community. There's a few like myself who are long-term married. There are a lot who are either single or have found themselves unexpectedly single through divorce or through being widowed.
Yeah.
How do these women kind of get going again? It's a constant conversation I see amongst these single women, like, there's no one out there. How do I do this? How do I date? Who am I? How do you deal with all of that?
It's a big deal. You know, it's a really big deal, especially for women that maybe have been with their sweetheart or somebody for a really long term that was dysfunctional. No matter how you slice it, it's starting over. And starting over anything can be a little scary.
Yeah.
Especially in the love realm. It's like, what's going to happen? Who am I now? You know, how is this going to play out? Am I going to be loved at this age, with this body, with the boobs that aren't exactly the way they used to be? I mean, all these things go through people's minds. And so the answer is yes. There are so many women in this place. Not everybody wakes up and says, wow, I want to do something differently than I've done in the past. And they tend to do the same thing over and over in the same kind of relationships, having the same pain, or not embracing this stage of life in the most extraordinary ways. And there are so many women that are. And there's so many women that are like, wait a second, my life is valuable. I have a good 20, 30, 40, 50 years left.
Yes,
How do I make it the best ever? And I always say it starts with self-love.
absolutely. I totally agree with you there. Now, you've said that there is one key thing that holds people back, though, from, well, women in particular, from receiving love from outside. What is it? What is it that holds them back?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fear. I mean, we could just say it's fear, but then we have to drill down like fear of what?
Yeah.
But, it's fear because it's like, am I going to be good enough? Well, if there's even a piece of you that thinks maybe I'm not all that, how are you going to believe somebody that says, oh, I think you're amazing? You're not going to accept it. You're going to put a wall up. Same thing for somebody that wants to love you. It's like if you've had so much heartbreak or pain or loss, there's potentially a wall around your heart because inside of you, and here's the piece, inside of you, there's this part I call the risk manager. And this part's been watching you since you were born, looking at how everything is working. And if it sees that you got hurt, its job is to keep you safe. Ultimately, its job is to keep you safe. So if it saw something happen that hurt you, it's going to do whatever it can to keep you from having that pain again. So it's going to build the wall. It's going to send the inner critic telling you, you're too old, you're too fat, you're never going to be able to write that book, whatever it is. So it is fear of having something happen that's going to hurt you. And so that sets up a lot of different things. And ultimately, we sabotage ourselves from really having the extraordinary because we're too scared that something bad might happen again.
Wow, I love how you connected it from fear to self-sabotage. And that's the reasoning why, because you're right, it's in every area of our life, not just love, but like you said, it's in our bodies, it's being too scared to take risks in our workplace or with the dreams that we would really like to achieve. We women are really good at the self-sabotage thing, aren't we?
We really are. And we're getting better. We're getting better because women are coming together instead of stabbing each other in the back. There's less queen killers. There's more women that are saying, yes, sister, I've got your back. Let's not talk like that. I mean, I remember before I really did the work, I remember where I was standing and the person I was standing with. And I haven't told this story in a long time, so I'm glad to be able to have that memory. I remember whatever I was saying, I wasn't being very kind to myself. And then my friend stopped me and she said, could you please stop talking to Junie that way? And I was like, whoa, we're not kind to ourselves sometimes. And so being aware of that voice, being aware that the patterns hold us back and that on some level, it's us protecting ourselves because we are afraid something bad might happen. And also the other thing is that as human beings, we don't like mystery. We don't like the unknown. It's uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable.
Yep.
It just is. So we need to have that inner part of us going like that deep friend inside of us say, yeah, I'm not going to accept this. I have healthy boundaries. I'm going to honor my truth and I deserve the best. And if that's not in check, it's scary. It is scary.
It is, because you'll always settle for second best, won't you?
That's good enough. All right. At least he likes me. At least I'm not alone. And that's, and some people come to me and they, and they say, just give me the dating tips. Just help me get back out there.
Yeah.
And I say, I'm happy to when we've done the unpacking so that you can really claim and own without apology your beauty, your value, so that you call in somebody that's spectacular. And even if you don't call in somebody, you have a spectacular life.
Yeah. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not about that person fulfilling every need of yours. It's about you living your life to the fullest and experiencing everything. And the partner's really one aspect to that, isn't it? Well,
absolutely. I mean,
that's
that's what I say. That is exactly what I say. To me, it's the cherry on top. It is not the cake. It is not the ice cream. You are the full package. And if you are wanting a partner, it adds to your life. It shouldn't complete your life. It brings joy to your life. And it's wonderful if you choose to have that. And until you have yourself, you're potentially going to call in or be you might attract or be attracted to somebody that is going to reflect what you need to heal.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
First time that came out of my mouth, actually, and I kind of like that too.
Yeah. Well, I know, I mean, obviously I've not been in the dating scene for a very, very, very long time. Coming up to 36 years married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's, it's not a walk in the park. And while it might not be the same as a single woman who's, navigating dating, they're at different stages of the relationship, there's still that having to learn that my happiness isn't dependent on my husband. I need to be doing that self-work myself to be happy, to find joy. And then my relationship is stronger and better for it. I think that's a really powerful thing that you're doing for these women who are in this space with time to work on themselves, that they get to that point. Do you find some women are a little shocked of that though? Like, oh, it's not like I'm chasing this thing that's going to make my life amazing. Actually, I need to make my life amazing. And then
I'm sure there are some that are surprised. I mean, when people come into whether I'm doing, a free workshop or a webinar, or they start to, reach out to me after a podcast, typically they know that something is not right inside of them, that something is off and they're not happy. I attract a lot of women that really have that knowing. And if they don't, then we have a conversation about, hey, your profile shows this because of your fear, your doubts, your whatever. And we have a big conversation about that. So, and what happens also is that women then find people, get into relationships, and then, like you said, sometimes it's not a walk in the park, and then they bump up against other things. So I've worked with a lot of people in relationship because sometimes you have to have difficult conversations because something is not working or you had a conflict in some way, and everybody, well, no, I shouldn't say everybody, but many women are conflict adverse. They do not like conflict. They see that, as like totally scary. And that's how we've been kind of programmed from society as women and in our paradigm still. And so we have some shifting to do. So it's an inside job to have joy. We need to do our own work and really see why we are triggered when our boyfriend or our spouse does something, says something, and not make it all about them. If there's a finger pointing at them, there's 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. What's that about? And that's typically in the shadow. That's typically in the blind spots of what you haven't healed.
That's really powerful. So let's talk practicality, because I'm all about practicality. I don't know if you realize, some of my books are called 21 Hacks. I'm all about let's take some action on things here. How do we start to lower that volume of our inner critic that's telling us I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough? How do we start to change how we feel about ourselves and how we speak to ourselves?
Well, first of all, I can't wait to check out your 21 hacks and taking action. And here's the thing, a lot of women, a lot of people want to take action, but that inner critic stops them. And that's the risk manager. That risk manager is like, oh, you really want to take action and you really want to get out there? Let me have you binge on a big container of ice cream, have you feel bloated and not want to, go on that date. So we sabotage ourselves. And one of the biggest ways we sabotage ourselves is with the inner critic. So how do we get it to work with us? So interesting. It's not about getting rid of it. It's about befriending it. It's about getting your risk manager to see what it's doing is hurting you. And if its job is to keep you safe and from pain, then if you're not feeling confident, if you're blocked, if you're not able to put yourself out there or meet somebody, you're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel like it's never going to happen. You're going to feel like the ship has sailed and you're too old. And those are the things that can keep you stuck. So the way to lower the inner critic, first of all, is to have some compassion for yourself. Let's be
That's
real.
good.
This is here because you're scared, because you don't want to fall down the rabbit hole again, because something happened or there's just this new playground that you're not familiar with. There's a part of you that needs some loving up and some
Mhm.
honoring. So we beat ourselves up so badly. And so to first just acknowledge that it's there, it is a good first step to be aware that there's a part inside of you that's doing the best it can. And when you look back at your past and you go, I wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda,
Yeah.
you're living in the past and you're not in the present and moving forward. And if you're in the past and beating yourself about, I wish I did this or I could have done that, then you're still not giving yourself that, oh, I did the best I could under the circumstances. So that's the first step, is just be gentle with yourself and become aware of it. Then you need to talk to that risk manager. You need to say, yo, buddy, this ain't working for me.
Yes, pull your
I
head
mean,
in.
right? Like I really appreciate how you're helping me out here, but do you see that this sabotaging behavior is painful for me? I'm overweight or I'm over, Netflixing or whatever it is, and not feeling fulfilled. And in midlife, we do have that ticking clock. I just turned
Yes.
60 and there's a part of me that's like, well, I don't know what's coming. We never do. But there's a little bit of a, wow, 70s in 10 years, 80s in 20 years. I want to make the best of my life.
Mhm.
So I want that risk manager to kind of pull back. So when people come to me, we do a full risk manager process to get it to see what's going on so that it goes, oh, okay, you know what? I see that you're in a different place. And I see that these strategies aren't working. So let me take a step back and let you have some space. And if I see a real risk, and this is the piece I want to bring in here, if I see a real risk, I'll step in. So another practical thing to do, aside from maybe journaling and going, hey,
Mhm.
buddy, talking to that risk manager, because that's something you
Yes.
can do. I mean, it really is helpful to have a shadow worker or a practitioner to really set you up and really guide you, because you're working in blind spots and a lot of things that you may not be aware of. Here's the practical,
Mhm.
because I said, is it a risk or isn't it? So if you bump up against the fear or the doubts or like that pattern that's holding you back, slow down and look at what's risky about it. Because again, that risk manager is looking for danger. It's assessing the situation. So now you can put your thinking cap on and look at it and go, am I really in danger here? By having a phone call with this potential partner or speaking to the partner about something that didn't feel right to you, are you in real danger, like gun,
Yeah.
poisonous
Yeah.
snake? And when you can see that there's not real danger, then you can lean in versus the risk manager just pulling you out. Now, you might find yourself going, yeah, I'm terrified of having this conversation with my partner or with this new guy, starting over. Maybe, you have some health issues that you're afraid to share with a potential partner. I mean, all of these things, there are strategies on how to do it. However, checking in and going, wow, I'm really scared to say this. So maybe it's not the right time. Maybe there is a big risk with the timing, or maybe you really do need some extra support around moving forward
Yeah.
and how that risk manager is really getting in the way. But that's something you can do, is just slow it down and ask yourself, am I really in danger? And then you can take a step, and you don't have to jump off the cliff. You could just take a step.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. So I can imagine that there's some real revelations when you're working with people, like when they realize that there's the different patterns of behavior that they've just adopted as part of that supposedly keeping themselves safe. What are some of the obvious patterns that you've seen that people might be able to self-identify that they have them as well? I know you mentioned eating. That's certainly one of mine. I definitely would reach for food if I'm really just nervous or hesitant about something. I'll go eat. But what are some of the other patterns that people do to sort of sabotage themselves?
Yeah. Second guessing themselves. That's a pattern where they want to do something, they're about to do something, and then they stop themselves because they just, most of this is unconscious because we
Yeah.
haven't even talked about that. But, we think consciously 5% of our brain, 95% is unconscious. And all neuroscience is showing that that's what's running the show. So you might say, I want to, run a marathon or write a book or just make new friends. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything, huge.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself procrastinating. That is a
Mm-hmm.
pattern that leads to lots of things like overeating or just not taking care of yourself in different ways, not exercising. And you were talking about the fight and flight. I mean, that's what is that doing to our bodies? Why do so many women have so many illnesses and the loneliness factor? There's so many studies about how loneliness leads to a lot of heart disease and other physical problems. So the pattern of being on guard can lead to so many different things. And again, that's us trying to prevent ourselves from falling down again. And we also have to remember that at a very young age, we were sponges. I think up to 5, 7 years old, we are just taking all the information in. We're witnessing how our parents talk to each other, how they
Yeah.
talk to us. Are we feeling safe? And so one of the other things a pattern that I see often is the inability to really speak your truth or speak up or get your needs met. And maybe when you were a kid, you said, oh, I want that toy. And mom maybe punished you. Oh, you're
Yeah.
selfish. Or, so we picked up all these beliefs about ourselves. And throughout our life, we're like, I better not be like this. I better not be like this. I better be like that because then I'll fit in and I will be loved. And all of those things create these patterns that block us, keep us stuck, and have us really not believing in our dreams. So if you have a dream and you haven't gone for it, just that alone can be a pattern, but then you got to drill down. What really is that? And usually it's just low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And you have this part of you that's just going, it ain't going to happen.
That's powerful. I know I keep saying that's powerful, but it is powerful because
It is powerful.
it is. And when you think about it, I mean, there's just so many different layers, aren't there, to our behaviors and to our personalities and why we do what we do. And I mean, you could just unravel for how long's a piece of string, really? But if you have all those things in your life that are holding you back, but at some point, I think we just need to step back, don't we, and go, right, well, this is an area we're going to work on now and start taking that action to unravel and to push forward and to love ourselves and to choose to do those things that we say we want to do. And that takes courage to face that, how you refer to it, that those shadows in your life, and to go forward, particularly when it comes to putting your heart on the line. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I just say one more thing about that?
Yes.
Courage is acting in spite of the fear.
Yes.
It doesn't mean the fear is going to go away. Fear is not a bad thing. You just don't want it in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Fear informs you. And so it's about dancing with your fear and having the courage to do it anyway. And it is our life. Sisters, this is our life.
Yes. Yes.
So when you take a moment to dream and go, this is what I desire. I mean, some women can't even pick what they want because they're so stuck. But if you can pick one thing and have that North Star, the clearer you have that North Star, then you can start to take steps toward it. And then you can see what's getting in your way. And we have blind spots and we have all these beliefs in the unconscious mind. We need to shine a light on them. We need to shine on these shadows. Otherwise, we're going to have challenges.
Absolutely. And yes, that definition about courage is perfect because you're right. We're never without fear. It's taking action and choosing to take action despite the fear, isn't it? So long as it's obviously you've weighed up all the other options and bits and pieces. But yeah, it
Exactly.
takes courage. And I can imagine for some of the people that you've dealt with, I mean, that's a huge risk, isn't it, when your heart's involved and your feelings, your emotions? Because it's not like you're picking up a paintbrush to learn to paint, and if you get it wrong, whatever, learning to date again or learning to take down your wall so you can be vulnerable for someone else who could potentially hurt you. I can imagine that's a huge one for women to work through.
I always say that love is risky business.
Yeah.
It is. Being in partnership, opening up our hearts, being vulnerable, there's a risk that something might happen. And that's why you have to start with you.
Yeah.
Build good, healthy muscles in self-care and healthy boundaries, the ability to know you have your own back and you don't have to just blast your heart wide open. And, you mentioned something about it can be a little scary to look at your stuff. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to find. However, if you don't look at your stuff, I offer to you that that's way scarier because you don't know what's in that 95% that's running in the background. You want to know what that monster is. And usually, almost always, you shine a light on that monster and it ain't that big. It's just a part of you that's scared. That's why I have my quiz I told you about. I love my quiz. It's Discover Your Love Avatar, and it helps you see how relationship ready you are. And, there's 3 avatars, and I help you see your superpower, and then I help you see some of your blind spots and how you might be holding yourself back. What is the fear? What is the challenge? So, and I know you're going to share it with your audience, and I just want to just really put a stake in the ground for doing these kind of things, reading books, taking these quizzes, and definitely getting mentors like you and myself so that you really can be empowered and own this precious stage of life on your terms without fear running you and stopping you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let's do this quiz. Let's look at how you're wired. Let's look at your patterns. Let's look at what's affecting your behavior and your choices. And then, armed with that new learning and understanding, then re-enter the dating world. I think that's really important because it's like, we put all this effort into career, but not necessarily into who we are and how we are in a relationship. So
it's the last stop. It's the last stop. And it's so sad. People invest, in college degrees and invest in different classes and certainly in bettering themselves to whatever it is. They put so much energy and time or save their money to go on a trip. And all of those things are great. We have not been taught to value taking care of ourselves and taking the time to heal. If we break our ankle, you can't just jump into the next sport.
Exactly.
You need to do rehab. You need to do rehab. So, and when it comes to the heart and when it comes to breakups, there's unpacking. There are beliefs you took on about, I suck at relationships. I'm never going to have one. Or I'm still single. A dear colleague of mine, I was talking to her recently, and she, I think is just shy of 50, early 50s maybe.
Oh, she's a babe.
She's a baby. And she has found her soulmate. She has found her love, and she had never had a long-term relationship. And she's just like, she's everything. And when I met her, I was like, what's going on here? It just wasn't her time. And so I also put into this story of there's other things at play here. Sometimes there's time that needs to go and your readiness and allowing the universe to do its thing. So I hope that wasn't too woo-woo for some of your people. But I truly believe that, we work on ourselves, we make the best of our life. And when it's time, it will happen. And we need to participate, but we do need to do the inner work. It's everything. I mean, it really is everything. Do you want a relationship or do you want a great relationship?
Yes.
Because that's what we're talking about right now.
Yes. And those of you who are listening in who are long-term married like myself, we can learn from this too. This isn't just for the single woman. We need to be learning too so that our relationship is growing and we're seeing how we can make our relationship better because it's easy to get stale. The longer you're in there, that old familiarity breeds contempt. And I'm speaking as someone who will own that. That happens in long-term marriages, and things that you're saying and are just as applicable, I think, for those of us in long-term partnerships, relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of my clients who did end up in a relationship a few years in, she came to me for a session because there was something she said yes to that she should have said no to. And afterward, buyer's remorse kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really afraid to have this conversation with her partner. And we worked it. And, she knew that there was a chance that might have caused a lot of problems in her relationship. But she did it. And he was so understanding. And that's the thing, is when we are in partnership, if we know how to have good, healthy communication, it actually builds bridges. It doesn't blow things up. If you're with the right partner, he may not have been the right partner for her, and might have been like, you said yes, no, but that was not what happened. So we always have the potential to learn and grow. And if we're lucky, we have a partner that is willing to go for the ride with us and maybe even grow together and spice things up, because there's always that. There's always new things that we can do in our relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I think we could just keep going forever and ever here. I think we're going to have to get you back and do a part 2 down the track. There's just so many different things we could talk on. But just to finish off today, let me just say to everybody who's listening in, all of Junie's information, her social media channel, her bio, you're going to be blown away when you read this lady's bio, by the way. The links to her quiz, all of those things are going to be in the show notes. They're going to be on my website. They're going to be wherever that you can hear or see this particular episode. And I encourage you to get in her world, get on her newsletter list, listen to what this lady's got to say. She's got so much wisdom, and I know you'll really appreciate that. But before we finish up, Junie, I'm going to throw another one at you, even though you've given us so much. What is one practical thing that someone listening to this episode could finish and go do right away to start changing how they see themselves or love in general?
Well, this may not sound so profound, but it's the first thing that came to my mind, is to just take a breath. I mean, to really close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, come home to your heart and take a breath and deeply listen to what's going on inside of you. Maybe ask yourself, what do you need, or what do you want, or what do you desire? To just slow down and take a breath and check in, because we're going all the time, and we're juggling. And then it's like, oh, how did I miss the last decade of my life? So slow it down and breathe, because there's so much information inside your heart.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I just want to thank you again for being with me today, Junie. It's just been absolutely amazing. And like I said, we're going to be getting you back, whether you like it or not.
I'm raising my hand. You are an amazing host, and this was so much fun. So much fun. Might be one of my favorites, if
just
not
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Look, my pleasure. And I'm really thrilled to have your expertise on show. I know it's going to be a blessing to so many people listening in. So thank you again. So a reminder to everybody listening in, please make sure to like, to subscribe, but most importantly, share this episode out, because there's going to be so many of your friends who will be encouraged by some of the wisdom that Junie shared with us today. So thank you, and make sure to catch us next week at the Rocking Midlife Podcast.